This is yard sale. Can you hear me?
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes. How come I can't hear myself? Am I supposed to hear myself? All right, boys. I guess this is official, and we really need to speak rationally and talk some lacrosse. Let's start, Quint, with the weekend. We saw big runs from Duke, UNC, Johns Hopkins, and Maryland. The most impressive run you saw this past weekend was?
It's either between Duke and Johns Hopkins. And I'm going to go with Hopkins because it came out of the blue to outshoot their opponent 18-0, a good Penn State team in the third quarter, and outscore them. Just an amazing goal scoring run. I think the shot clock really adds to these runs, where in the past the team would get a lead and they'd stall. Now they got to keep going.
Yeah. How about you, Anish?
Maryland, fourth quarter, 1-goal game going into the fourth quarter. You're thinking, all right, Rutgers, we're pulling out here to win. And then the next thing you know, Maryland blows it open, kind of like they did in the third quarter against Hopkins. And it was almost like they flipped a switch. Oh, okay. All right. We let them hang around, hit them with some body blows. Let's start dropping haymakers. Next thing you know, the game's over. They've done that now in 3 straight games. Maryland, to me, has separated itself. Right now, to me, they are a clear number one.
How would Mike Francesa say Maryland? Do it for me.
You know, Maryland, tell you what, Maryland, John Tillman could coach, got in the Benson guy from Hopkins, okay? So Maryland, Maryland's Maryland, okay? They got the flag with the colors and, they got the crazy jerseys, but, back after this.
For me, it was Johns Hopkins. When I was watching that game, and I asked myself, if I just turned this game on and I saw the score 13-3, there's no way I would have thought Johns Hopkins would have been beating Penn State 13-3. After we saw the offense from Penn State a week ago against Ohio State, I thought they were starting to find their identity. Credit Peter Milliman and his staff. And this is no disrespect for the team, but do they really have those kind of players yet in the middle of the field to make those kinds of runs? The answer for me is no. So what he's doing, he's being really creative and he's finding spots. And for me, Connor DeSimone's been their MVP, Quint.
Hey, here's the deal. This is the season, a visual representation.
Yeah,
See these little hatchlings?
What is that?
These little seedlings.
Props.
Some are really struggling. They're not growing. Others, wow, this bad boy's growing. This is Johns Hopkins right here. This is Johns Hopkins. 2 weeks ago, you could hardly see him. Now he's like ready to be put in the garden.
Yeah.
That's what this season is.
Hey, you're looking jacked. He's looking jacked right now, Anish. What would you say size of Quint's shirt right now? Is it an extra small or a small?
Extra medium.
Extra medium.
I think it is a small that I ordered for my daughter, but I wanted to wear it today.
I will say this on the Hopkins game. What impressed me was how far they've come in such a short time. And, the one part of the narrative, which I'm not sure I buy completely, is, well, do they have the horses? Quint, you and I talked about this on the broadcast. 5 of their top 6 on offense are former top 10 recruits. Like, there are guys there who came to Hopkins with the track record. Now, you can say they have underperformed as to what their expectations were, but Cole Williams, Epstein, the freshman Grimes, DeSimone, all these guys, Evan Zinn, all these guys were big-time recruits coming out of high school.
There's a lot that has changed as well. The roles for DeSimone to move to attack puts Epstein on the wing. Matt Naruski with the new face-off rules is all very good. Bowden Zulik, the defender, transfer, Lafayette. You've got Connor Delaney off the basketball team. You got a goalie transfer. So those are like 5 upgrades across the board.
Wow, we actually have – wait. We have an alum who's actually happy.
Hey, how's your brother doing with this all? He went radio silent there for about 3 years.
Hey, it's COVID, and a lot of teams are coping and making the most of opportunities and adapting. I got to ask you guys, during these home broadcasts, tell me what you are wearing waist down. Quint.
Jeans and socks, no shoes. I find I'm a little better on the air without shoes on.
How about you?
Jeans. You know what I actually do? I mean, even if I'm somewhat casual, I'll throw a blazer on. I kind of go through the whole process, right? Like cologne, grooming. I don't know. You just want to get in the mood.
Grooming. That name, grooming. Yeah, right.
Anish, that's what I found. You're at home. So the great news is we're doing these games and we're at home. The bad news is you take your home onto the air with an open mic in front of America. So I go from walking the dog and scolding my daughter to an open mic. And that can be a dangerous thing sometimes.
Yeah, you can get too loose. Don't you feel that, Carl? You kind of still have to have a little formality. Otherwise, you can go down a rabbit hole, maybe say something or act in a way, come off sloppy or unprofessional. Not that we've all done that, but I should say we can come off more sloppy and more unprofessional than usual.
Yeah. And look, for me, you guys are going to make fun of me, but when I'm on the road, I have a routine and I wake up early and I comb my hair and I put a little bit of product in there. And by game time, which is like 3 hours later, like the product has settled. What I'm struggling with right now is I take a shower after we kind of fax out 3 hours before, and then I shower. By the time I'm ready and I'm combing my hair, it's like an hour before the game. So
it's not enough time.
Settled in. I kind of look like more of a grease ball. But I also do not wear capri pants like Quint thinks I do. I wear Roan joggers with up top. I'm cleaned up, you know. I have either a zip like this and a blazer. You try to keep it as clean as professional as possible. But I'll tell you what, the funniest guy to call a game with when you're watching your partner, because we have all these Zoom screens and monitors, Chris Cotter calls games with his boxers on. It's absolutely hysterical. You get this guy who's the size of the Hulk, right? And he's got the skinniest lower body. And sometimes he stands up to get a drink. And during the game, I'm watching it. I see this guy in his boxers.
He called a MLL championship game on live TV in his boxers from Charleston, South Carolina. And we went on at halftime. And there he was in his boxers. I couldn't believe it. He took off his pants midway through the game because he was so hot.
I remember. Do you remember Netanya when we were in Israel?
Just imagine.
The first day that we were doing games, Quint and I, because they wouldn't let us in the building, we had to sneak in and climb up the stairs. You and Cotter were finishing up. And I remember he had all his little pill pockets and his pill dispensers, and he dropped them. They spilled on the floor. And and he's on his hands and knees like, oh man, this one goes in here. I've never seen him that nervous. And it was like, he had a system for that stuff. And I was like, oh my God, this guy takes this stuff seriously.
Yeah, you don't want to get him mad. If he misses a workout, he is the most miserable human around. All right, everyone's talking about TD Ierlan. Impact, a niche, go.
Minimal, and this is not a slight on TD. They've been facing off pretty well. I look at what they've done. I think we have forgotten that they missed some key pieces early in the year when they lost to Duke and lost to Carolina. They probably don't win those games even with those key pieces, but Jackson Morrill's starting to play a little bit better. Alex Simmons, since he's come back, what do you have, 9 points the other day? He's really played well. So there's more there offensively. They're a more dynamic team, 20 goals the last 2 times out, and this will air, I think, after they play Georgetown. So we'll see what happens in that game. But to me, Ierlan he's an upgrade at the faceoff X over anybody because he's one of the best that's played that position. But to me, faceoffs haven't been the issue for Denver.
Stathakis has been good. You add a guy to the clubhouse, though, a veteran who's been in big games. I think that'll help. I think Jackson Morrill and Lucas Kotler will be more comfortable. And you add a veteran who's going to make that team better. He's a great teammate.
For me, I struggle with it. And I respect the fact that TD wants to finish his college career because he deserves that right. But I struggle with the fact that it's March and he parachutes in and you have a young face-off guy like Alex Stathakis who's facing off going into Tuesday's game 66%. And he was over 60% as a freshman. And you do whatever you can to make the team better. But my biggest concern for that locker room is the chemistry because in comes TD and Alex Stathakis, who from my understanding is a great kid, has relationships on that team, right? And guys have bonded towards him and he's going to react one way or another. And if I'm a betting man, he's going to take it like a teammate will, but it's not that easy. It's not that easy just to insert TD Ierlan and say, okay, we're better right now because chemistry in sports is paramount.
Yeah,
Thanks,
what does
Dr.
that do
Phil.
to a locker room, Quint? What does that do to a locker room?
Dr.
Call me
Phil.
Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil
How can
Carcaterra.
you argue with that? How could you argue with that?
And I may have missed it. Help me understand what's so special about you.
Because it's different. You know, I think it's hard to. I agree with your point, but it's different for every locker room, and I don't know what locker rooms are like this year, given COVID. There is no locker room. But no, I completely agree with your point, Dr. Phil.
Thank you.
I do think what helps here is that TD's a good kid too. We've been around him.
He's a great kid.
lot.
I want him to finish his career. He deserves it. But the timing of all this, like, you can't tell me it's going to be seamless.
No, the parachute word is appropriate.
Yeah, it's essentially, hey, you're the, star on this team and this is your position. And then somebody else comes in and now they're the guy and you're saying, hey, hold on a second. I was doing pretty good and we were winning and we're getting back on the right track. But to me, again, early in here, the move is, does that mean Denver plays a little faster when they have unsettled opportunities? In the past, we've seen them win these faceoffs and then kind of, put on the brakes a little bit. So does it change the way they've played? Admittedly, the last couple of games, I haven't seen a whole lot of them besides just the highlights. So does it fundamentally change how they play? Because if you have a weapon like TD Erlin, and if he's going to win faceoffs to himself, I want to see Denver go fast off of those faceoff wins, don't you?
Yeah, Alex Simmons has been moved to attack, and that's made a big difference in the last 3 games. They're scoring goals. They should score goals. They have great talent on offense.
Yeah. He's the head coach for the University of Maryland, coming off a big win against Rutgers. Joining us on Yard Sale, and we know you had a great win this weekend, so we're not going to ask you anything about that. This is
That's not
a
important.
different kind of show. You're going to regret this decision probably as soon as you get off. So, John, I'm going to get right into it. The hard-hitting questions the people want to know. Tinder or Bumble?
I've never done either, and I don't know how to log into either. So I'm not sure. I know nothing about either. I know they're like dating type things. And Lord knows I need all the help I can get. But I've never been on either, so I have no basis there. I'll need some help from you guys on that one. What do you guys think?
Well, you got to ask your players because all of us sadly don't use those. But
Good point.
And if we did, we'd be in a lot of trouble. But I got one more for you. So, course of a game, you're watching your offense play. Do you ever say, hey, for old time's sake, I'm going to call a possession shot here?
Okay. That's enough, Anish. That's enough, Anish. The iPad. The ball comes whizzing by you, and there you're on your iPad. Movies, TV shows, more offensive, more defense. What do you spend your time on the iPad?
The ongoing joke was Candy Crush. Which I've never played that either. So I'm kind of laughing at something I don't know what Candy Crush is, but it's funny. We had a meeting last week with the rules committee of talking about maybe do we move away from that at some point.
Wow.
My point was, listen, we survived without it. We survived with it. Either or, whatever we do, people will manage. But that was something that people just kind of talked about. Do we need it? And I think it would be interesting to take a survey after the year and see what people think. I like it because there are times where, you can only watch so much. And sometimes being on the field, the far end of the field, you just don't always have great depth perception. So you're like, how far out was that shot? Position wise, was our goalie in the right spot? Did we slide off the right guy? Was that a high angle shot? Sometimes your eyes play tricks on you. So it's nice to be able to kind of go back and see it. I think the tricky part is you spend too much time on that, you're going to miss what's going on. So you have to kind of be strategic of when you look at it. But I also love it in practice more than anything else, because you can literally pull a guy aside in practice and just go, this is what we're looking for. Like, you did this right. Or, hey, you need to get here. Do you see it? And the guys can see themselves. It's a great teaching tool.
Kark, we would benefit from having that during games.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Coach, the crease attackman is a dying breed, and you have a guy in Danny Maltz, and I know his family. They're wonderful people. He's incredible inside. But in the weight room, I got to ask you, what does he bench press? Don't lie to me. What does that guy bench press?
I don't know. I'll say this. He benefits from a dad who was a former DEA agent who won a national championship at Syracuse, and two older brothers. And I had two older brothers, and they are on him all the time. I know Dylan and I were talking recently, talked about how many extra peanut butter sandwiches he's been eating. So he's addressing it. He's working on it. And he's done a great job for us. His hands are just so smooth.
If you were to have a night out with Matt Rambo and Colin Heacock, what would that look like?
Well, I'd be asleep at 9. And those guys they'd probably go to bed at 3. Those guys, we actually had Colin on last week. We had Colin on midweek, and then we had SVP on late last week, just to lighten up the Zooms, change it up a little bit. And Colin was great. He's got a really good job right now. He's doing medical device sales. He's killing it. He's just such a good fit in that regard in terms of working with people. And then we started spring break today. So I got 2 wiffle ball sets. I got a bocce ball set. I got a dodgeball set and 2 cornhole sets. So
nice.
After practice, the kids can hang out. The weather was nice today. It's one of the few times the kids can all be together. So we were like, listen, grab what you want to grab, hang out, stay after, and just have some fun and spend some time together. Because once they leave, you can only have so many at each dwelling. So we're kind of trying to make coming to practice a fun thing for the kids. I think they need that right now.
Favorite place in Corning to eat? What is it?
I'd go to Emilio's.
For pizza?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the hot seat with this question. Would you rather have pizza at Emilio's or pretzel crab dip at Davis Pubs in Annapolis?
Ooh, I mean, I would say I'll have the pizza from Emilio's and the crab pretzel and the buffalo strips, and wash it down with a burger.
I love that. You're the man, Tills.
So I love it. I hope you guys have fun with this thing.
What's the W for, by the way? You have all these letters every week with your hat.
Washington. He's
Washington, man. Cupcake Central for Q.
Friday. I'm getting a husky on Friday. Next week, I'm going to bring the dog on the show, by the way.
Nice.
It'll be a puppy. It'll be 8 weeks. You guys will love it. What's your something of the week?
Something of the week would be, I think I grew the game last Thursday. So in the previous week's column, I wrote that North Carolina and Virginia is one of those games because of the pace, the tempo, the star power. If somebody who's never seen lacrosse, that seems to be the perfect entry point, right? So I decided to put that theory to the test. In this week's column, there's a Q&A with our pal Roddy Jones, who covers college football and college baseball. Great guy for ESPN and the ACC network. So Roddy and I did 2 years of football together. We've worked a lot together. We're friends. We've hung out. So when he was doing a baseball game, we're texting and he's like, hey, we got a promo read for the Syracuse Virginia game. So I sent him some talking points and he sold the hell out of it. So I said, all right, would you be willing to be my guinea pig for this column and watch a lacrosse game in its entirety and just scribble down whatever thoughts you have. And then we'll do a little Q&A. And I thought, what better game than North Carolina, Virginia? So in this week's column, there's a long Q&A with him and then some of his thoughts. And it's interesting getting the perspective of somebody who's never seen the sport. And some of what we take for granted, everybody knows this, little things. I mean, he was asking me, what determines a guy who has a long stick? What determines how many guys can be on the field in one spot? Why are guys running backwards on offense, running off the field? We understand that. He was very complimentary of you and Cotter. And the one observation that he had was you have to be absolutely insane to be a goalie.
Yes. Really? I lived with one growing up with my brother Brian, who's a complete whack job. And I actually work with a whack job who I'm going to ask with right now.
Okay.
What's your something of the week?
Things you can get at a yard sale for 50 cents. Let's start with this little horse. This is Trey LeClaire. He's a horse. He tied the Ohio State goal scoring record. I've also got Jacksonville beating Florida on the women's side. I've got UMass out of quarantine. Greg Cannella and the Gorillas actually played a game. Romo and Air Force in the snow.
Dude, it's something of the week, not some things of the week.
Hey, that's how I think, man. You know, that's how I think. It's 50 cents. Those are all 50 centers you can get at the yard sale.
Okay. We only have $1, so you only have 2. That's good stuff. My something of the week is watching Charlotte North. And the way that she plays the game of lacrosse is refreshing, but it also puts me in a space where I make comparisons. And when I'm watching her play, there's 2 lacrosse players she reminds me of. The first one is Kayla Trainer, who played for Syracuse and now coaches her at Boston College. The combination of like the way she uses her body, her stick skills, her creativity, and how reckless she is. Like if you watch a lot of her goals, like she goes for broke all the time. And she always gives you something that you say, wow. Like every week she is in the mix for a SportsCenter top 10. And the other lacrosse player she reminds me of is Lyle Thompson. It's just the instincts. Like Charlotte is not one of those players where anything is planned out. And I think that's Lyle's greatest suit. Like he has no clue where he's going next and he plays off of the defense. If you watch Charlotte's goal against Virginia this past week, the way that she kind of went up to the middle of the field and kind of maneuvered and meandered through defensive pressure, used her shoulders, came back, and then faked the goalie all in one, like that is something you cannot coach. And she reminded me of Lyle and Kayla Trainer. All right, there's a lot of, pauses in college lacrosse because of COVID, understandably. Anish, what's your solution?
It's the solution for the modern world. It's an app.
It's an app.
It's an app. And we were just talking to John Tillman about Bumble and Tinder. All right. What if you had an app for all the collegiate teams and all the collegiate sports? You should have started this really in the fall when football started, and everyone's got their profile. And let's say your date, your opponent for that week cancels on you or gets postponed because of COVID, and you need somebody. Well, you have a list of available singles who can play that weekend, right? And then you start checking the profile. So let's say, for example, you're Syracuse and Hofstra can't play, and you start going down. You say, hey, I like this profile. Lehigh, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, loves going to Central New York in mid-March and playing indoors. Hey, this is a match. Swipe right. If that doesn't work, then you go to the next team. To me, make it an app, make it easy. Like swipe right, swipe left. These guys, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, we're not playing them. But to me, it's an easy way to find a good matchup, and let's use some technology.
So last week, I'm watching Brennan O'Neill against High Point, and honestly, he made one move, and I think you know what I'm talking about, Quinn. He looked like Gary Gate in terms of just strength, size, and just overall just brute force meets skill, and it blends, and it becomes Brennan O'Neill. Talk to me about this kid.
He's a superhero, and he's a freshman. Painting corners, as some of our fans like, painting corners. Lefty, righty, speed, size, the whole deal. The only thing, Clark, there's one little thing that I noticed. I've seen him get stuffed on tape from inside when he's shooting at the goalie's feet. Like good shooters, not to mess with the goalie's feet because they move. Other than that, 5 goals the other day, huge on Wednesday against High Point, just fearsome. I mean, he scares me.
I feel like your hair, Anish, is becoming, I don't know, like I put the promo out for yard sale and every comment on my Instagram was about your hair, nothing else. I mean, how are you handling all this?
I wear a hat 90% of the day. How am I handling it? It's weird. Like I get, in football season where you get a lot of viewers and you get a lot more eyeballs, we'd come on camera for like the first 30 seconds. We're doing the game out of the studio. I get like a dozen, 15 people, tweeting in like the first 2 minutes just about my hair and Instagram comments. Dude, the hair, cut your hair. What are you, a hippie? Love the hair, love the flow. And then all the lax bros got to me. Bro, you got to keep that through lax season. It was the original plan was not to have this this late in the year, this late in the sports calendar year. I was going to cut it probably some point after December. And then Lacrosse got a hold of me. Oh, you got to leave it. Oh, the flow. So here we are.
We got to see it. Take the hat off. Show the fans.
Show the fans.
It's good
I'll
for
tell you,
ratings.
someone tweeted a picture of.
Look at the center part.
Yeah, someone tweeted a picture of you next to Forrest Gump. I thought that was interesting. And one of your former colleagues, Adnan Verk, what did he mention? That your hair needs its own Instagram account?
Oh,
I love
boy.
it because at the end of the season, championship weekend, if we're all together, we're going to cut it for charity.
We are. Yeah.
Think about this.
Yeah. No, I actually look forward to that. I mean, you've been aching to shop at these threads for some time. You've been bugging me for a couple of years. I'll cut your hair. I'll cut your hair. And it is weird because I always had it. I felt I always had it pretty clean. And now it's a mess. So
I like it.
You'll have your work cut out for you championship weekend, and hopefully we can raise a few bucks for a good cause.
All right.
Whoa,
yeah.
who's this guy? Who are you?
What's up?
State your name and occupation.
Matt Hamilton, U.S. Lacrosse. Here I am with the mailbag. The mailbag, we got some nice questions. Yard sale at uslacrosse.org, guys. Hit it up for questions for the show. We had our first mailbag submission from Amelia Prost at Cornell. I'm going to throw this one in a niche. And Amelia says, I hope you're doing well. I'm wondering how you all see the future of Ivy League lacrosse being affected by the cancellation of the season this year. It'll definitely be interesting to see if recruiting is affected. So kind of a question, but more, what do you think about the future of Ivy League lacrosse now that this has happened?
Yeah, Amelia, thanks for the question. Good question, first of all. Short term, I do think it's a hit. One, basically, these kids are going to go almost 2 years without playing. So the kids who do come back, you get all the time in the weight room practice, but it's been 2 years since you play in a real game. So will there be an impact there? Yeah, absolutely. Short term, I think you can see maybe some of those recruits going to a Duke or a Hopkins or some of these other high academic schools outside of the Ivy. Long term, I think once you get beyond 3 years, I do think it'll normalize. At the end of the day, if you have a chance to play lacrosse and get an Ivy League degree, that is still a sell. I mean, that's as big of a carrot as there is in this sport, and it sets you up for the rest of your life. So to me, short term, the next few years, they'll take a hit. I think the bigger hit they could take is potential attrition of some high quality coaches who just may not be enamored with the direction the league has gone in with some of their decisions the last 2 years. They may leave for greener pastures or maybe even make lateral moves or what seem to be lateral moves. I think that's the bigger danger. I think from a recruiting standpoint, short-term, 2-year hit, then they'll be fine.
All right, moving to the next one. We got a couple questions about goalies. So I'll throw this at our goalie here. This is from Joe Hep 30 on Instagram and a guy named Provolone Cheese 14.
Ooh, I like that.
Actually, not a big fan of cheese, but the name is great. So Quint, who are the best college goalies in lacrosse and where will they fall in the draft?
Wow. Well, James Spence of Lehigh is tearing it up, as is Owen McElroy of Georgetown. I've been impressed with Drake Porter. He had that one subpar effort coming off that interview with Kark. That's understandable. And then I think Liam Entenmann of Notre Dame, if he can avoid going on to overtime, he could have a strong season as well. In terms of PLL, this is a good senior class. At the end of the day, though, there's like less than 20 guys who are going to make a roster. I'm not sure if there's a goalie in that mix, quite honestly. It's really, understand, Kark, how it's really tough to make a pro roster right now.
Oh, because these goalies can play, 10, 12 years. I mean, Drew Adams is still playing. He's Penn State 2009.
Q, what about Mike Adler, who after a bit of a rough start has really turned it around for Duke?
Looks good. It'll be interesting against the ACC competition. I mean, Duke won the SoCon title last week after beating Jacksonville and High Point. But, Adler's good. His clearing's a little bit dicey at times, but he's clearly settled down, and he's an upgrade for the Blue Devils. Kark, I'm seeing some fans back at ball games, and I'm guessing they could have socially distanced tailgates. What do you bring to the tailgate?
My grandma Mary's meatballs. It's that simple. Look, I told everyone in all these promos, if you stuck around, I'd give you the meatball recipe. So it's 9 ingredients. The meat is considered 1, okay? And it's veal, beef, and pork. So that's 1. and then you just throw a ton of Parmesan cheese. And the other thing too is Italians don't measure things. So don't ask me like, what is that, a quarter of a cup or this, that? No, it's a feel thing. Okay. So it's your meat, it's your Parmesan cheese, garlic. I like to cut it up nice and fine. I put that in there too. Breadcrumbs. Okay. Eggs, milk, salt, pepper, parsley. Okay. So it's 9 ingredients. Then you have to put olive oil on your hands. All right. You see my hands? You haven't seen them all day, right? These are my hands. Why do you put olive oil on your hands? Very simply. So the meat doesn't stick when you're rolling the balls. Put them on a nice cooking sheet, put it in 375, 20 to 25 minutes. Once that's done, just let it bathe in marinara. Okay. The longer it sits in the marinara, the better. And it's always the best the day after. So hopefully Joe Amplo from Navy, who's, I don't know, I've never tasted his food. He's kind of one of those guys that tells you how good of a cook he is. He should probably take my recipe as well. Maybe we'll do this again next week. I don't know. Hope so. What do you think, Quint?
Thanks for watching, folks. You might want to save this someday. 20 years from now, it could be worth something as our first and only yard sale show.
People are doing that these days, right? They're buying Twitter videos and they're buying highlights. If we don't get canceled, we'll be back next week. Yard sale at uslacrosse.org. You can send all your fan mail, your hate mail, your questions that Quint may rip apart next week. But that's the fun for the show. So see you next week, maybe.
Maybe.